Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll-free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And I want to welcome you to this program today. Thanks for joining me every Saturday from 10 to noon right here from the center of the automotive universe. That's right, the center of the, well, where is the center of the automotive universe for us and for you, I hope, on Saturdays? It's right in the middle of an all-digital car clinic studio that's located right in the middle of a 15,000 square foot automotive service shop. So some 50 hours a week, my team and I are knee-deep in automotive repair and service. So then on Saturday, when you and I talk and I help you with your car challenges, I can share with you information that I've learned and help you to better understand the nature of the vehicle that you drive, and also help you better communicate locally in your own hometown with your service provider so that your life is better, your car is better, and your car stays in your garage and out of their garage. Bobby Likis Car Clinic this morning is brought to you by the Car Care Council, our partners. If you're traveling this winter, remember to follow the 3 Ps. That's the 3 Ps of car care, which are prevent, prepare, and plan, which will save you money and avoid breakdowns. You can learn more at carcare.org. That's carcare.org. Okay, what's on the agenda? Well, your calls. Hannah will take your calls at 888-227-2546. And guess what? Live from Daytona, Mr. Terry Saviston. When I come back, don't touch that dial, a 24-hour Rolex. This car repair spotlight brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. This week, a 91 Chevy pickup came in the shop with 354,000 miles. One issue was its clutch, slipping and making loud popping noises. Tommy, our ASE certified technician, removed the transmission and found all the usual suspects. Clutch plate, disc, throwout bearing, and flywheel destroyed. We reached out to our local O'Reilly Auto Parts professional, ordered all new parts. Easy enough. But on closer inspection, Tommy found the clutch fork pivot ball sockets worn out, causing the fork to pop sideways rather than roll over its fulcrum as designed. Another call to O'Reilly Auto Parts, but this time we weren't sure which fork to order. And that's where our O'Reilly Parts Pro stepped up. We gave him the trans number he asked for, and he delivered the correct fork in short order. Clutch fixed, Tommy happy, owner happy, all good. Another great reason our first call for parts is O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Cooling systems take a beating when it gets cold. We recently had a customer come in with a 3.5 Chrysler engine with a cracked head. Parts and labor totaled just under $3,000. We suggested K-Seal, and it worked. You've heard me talk about K-Seal before. It's a simple pour-in solution added directly to the radiator when cool. You then run the engine till the leak is stopped. K-Seal isn't just any stop leak. It's a certified leak repair and preventative formula designed and tested to stop cooling system leaks. K-Seal features a ceramic technology which makes it non-clogging but highly effective. Engine temps range from -20 to 220 above in just minutes. It's during these times that cracked blocks and heads fail. We've had customers who were ready to scrap their vehicles, then tried K-Seal and were able to continue driving their automobiles. Log on to K-Seal for more information, including videos and the many different applications. Don't just seal it, K-Seal it. That's kseal.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Rosie Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, loaded, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, starts my morning, happy morning. Your name is Folgers Mountain Grow, now you're here. Your aroma helps me wake and the day is mine to take. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Okay, let's get started with today's program. Thanks for tuning in on Saturdays. It means a lot to me, and it's great for me, and not only is it fun, you can't call this work, but to look forward to every Saturday meeting someone whom I've never met or talked with before, perhaps never will meet face to face. But what is really significant about our relationship that I have and those that I will build and have built over the years is that there's a lot of trust here. And I want you to know that even though I do promote automotive products, I never promote an automotive product that I haven't tested and used in my automotive service shop. So I know a thing or two, as they say, because we've done it. We've been there and done that. What I want to do now is take you on a trip to Daytona Beach, Florida, to the Daytona International Speedway, and with us is Terry Sabiston. Let me share a little bit about Terry with you, folks. Terry's the motorsports director for WNDB 1150 News Talk Radio there in Daytona. And WNDB 1150, I will say, he wouldn't say this, owns the Daytona Beach area, the Ormond Beach area. Why? Because they've been there so long and because they are the talk radio station. What's significant about that station is some 27 years ago, Bobby Likis Car Clinic started with 4 stations in 2 states, and WNDB was one of those stations, and to this date, through several different ownerships, we're still broadcasting every Saturday live. And to that end, Terry, I thank you for waiting. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate WNDB, and I love all the folks. My second home would be Daytona Beach, and for all of our affiliates, I want you to know that if you have a special event, feel free to reach out to us, and we will set up and call you. Terry, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. How are you doing this morning?
I'm fantastic, Bobby. It's a beautiful day here at Daytona International Speedway, the World Center of Racing, and it truly is the World Center of Racing today. This is a festival with a car race going on, and it is huge. This has been a great season already for the Rolex with a roar. We had the best crowds ever. We got record qualifying speeds. We've got huge fans. We've got the largest autograph session coming up here in the next couple hours of drivers you've ever seen. It is a great day at Daytona International Speedway, and I'm so glad to be here.
Well, and we're glad to have you in the house. Explain to our audience, Car Clinic viewers and listeners, what the 24-hour Rolex is all about, how many different classes, what speeds will be reached, and what it's like to have one car going 220 miles per hour that zips by another car running 175, but that's what happens.
It does. We've actually got 4 classes running out here for the Rolex 24 at Daytona. We've got the DPIs, the Daytona Prototypes International. That's the North American top-of-the-line race cars there are in North America. These are just the most dynamic, amazing cars you've ever seen. Closed cockpit. We've got 11 of those in the race. We've got LMP2s, Le Mans Prototype 2s. There's 4 of those in the race. And then we have the GT Le Mans, which I believe there is 9 of those in the race, and then 23 GT Daytonas. And the difference in all these cars, as you said, is several miles an hour. Daytona Prototypes can top out over 200. The Le Mans Prototype's a little slower than that. The GTDs, and the difference between the GTDs and the GT Le Mans is basically drivers and manufacturers. The GT Le Mans are manufacturer-backed cars with some of the top drivers in them, and then the GTDs are pro-ams, where you have drivers who are professional amateurs that really enjoy what they do, but don't make the kind of money that the drivers in those top classes do. And the cars are basically team built in the GTDs, not manufacturer built. So it's a lot of different classes, over 600 horsepower of the Daytona prototypes, and right up there with the LMP2s, probably 450 horsepower GT Le Mans, 500 horsepower GT Daytona, right in there in both those. So, and there's everything from Lexus to Lamborghini to Ferrari to BMW to Mercedes to Cadillac to Corvette, every kind of car you can imagine out here on the track, racing all against each other. And it starts at 2:35 this afternoon and goes for 24 hours. So it's like racing from here to California flat out as fast as you can go. And I actually talked to a driver earlier this week. He lost by 0.03 of a second after 24 hours. Came in second place.
He did what? So that again, he lost. You mean he came in second by 0.03 of a second
after 24 hours?
After 24 hours. That's unbelievable. You know, and folks, understand this. Imagine, you know, getting into a race car, or let's break it down. Imagine getting into a bumper car and having the fastest bumper car at the fair, and then you hold it to the floor for 24 hours. I mean, let's face it, Terry. Now, what's the length of time? How long can a single driver stay in the cockpit?
Well, they can run double and triple stints, and they will. So that means a stint is one fuel run, which is about 45 to 50 minutes, a little under an hour. So you'll have some drivers that will run 2 to 3 hours at a time. Most of the teams have 4 drivers. Some of them have 3. They will rotate out and take shifts. What doesn't rotate out is the crew. The crew's got to be there every hour to refuel and new tires on that car. And that's the other thing. Michelin has stepped into the Rolex 24, and we've seen higher speeds with his new Michelin tire than we've ever seen before here at the Rolex 24. We've got a new track record of 1 minute 33.685 seconds, a little over 136.5 mile an hour average speed over a 3.54 mile road course. So the speeds are phenomenal this year, and potentially we'll set a record of the most laps probably run in the 24-hour race.
And so, Terry, at the 136 miles per hour average, explain to the folks that this is a road course that one of those hairpin turns as you come down the front stretch and into the infield. What is the speed through that hairpin there, as I remember?
Well, you come down through the tri-oval, and let's say we're in a Daytona prototype, and you're hitting a little over 200 miles an hour, and then, like the NASCAR guys go straight. Well, you head down to the end of pit road there, and all of a sudden you make a left turn. Now, the good thing is they've made this turn fairly wide in a runoff area, so if you slip or get a little loose, or you get 3 or 4 wide going in there, you got some runoff room, but you're turning around and doing about a 270-degree turn into the infield, and drops your speeds down below 100 miles an hour. Then you got a couple of S's, and then you head straight for what they call the International Horseshoe. The International Horseshoe has the flags of all the countries that are involved in the race all around it. And you drop down to, it depends on the vehicle, but a lot of them as slow as 50 to 60 miles an hour getting through that corner. And then you head back through the infield road course and what they call the kink. And these guys, it's a little kink that's a turn probably of about 30 degrees or so, but they're doing it at over 100 miles an hour. And then there's another U-turn at the other end of that you make. And then you head out onto Daytona International Speedway up into the bankings, turns 1 and 2, and accelerate down the backstretch to over 170, 180 miles an hour, maybe 190. And then at the end of the backstretch, you see there's a big X in the middle of the track, and you got to dive through the bus stop, which is literally a little chicane to slow your speed down. And that's an interesting situation there, to be flat out, and all of a sudden halfway down the backstretch, you're hard on the brakes. You bump through the bus stop and back out onto the banking, up through 3 and 4 and back to the tri-oval. Takes, as I said, 1 minute, 33.685 seconds for that Mazda that did it just yesterday.
And so, Terry, what's the minimum, one of the 600-plus horsepower automobiles or race cars, not automobiles as we think of, how much would that vehicle weigh, including the driver?
I think for the Daytona prototypes, they've got a range of, I think, 1,990 pounds up to 2,225 pounds. So there's variable in there depending on driver weight and stuff. So
is that a
little over a ton?
Is that the lightest of the cars?
Horsepower, and it's amazing.
Is that the lightest of the race cars on the track? Terry.
You still got me, Bobby?
Yeah, I got you. Is that the lightest of the cars on the track? He's breaking up. That's.
I don't know. I can't hear you,
That's
Bobby.
okay. Can you hear me now?
I hope all's well, and if you want, I'll call right back.
Okay.
But live from Daytona International Speedway, Terry Sabiston, the Rolex 24. Come on out if you can hear my voice and join us. It's going to be a great weekend.
Well, I can hear him. He just couldn't hear me. Well, I will tell you what the truth. That's just so interesting and so terrific that that Terry would call in. Folks, that was Terry Sabiston. He broke up there at the end, but this is live. It's live broadcast, and I have to share with you, it's exciting to me. And although over the years, the 27 years, this program has not been built around race cars, that certainly, and Terry mentioned that the speeds are faster this year. Michelin has created some special compounds of rubber. So what interest that is for you is that the next set of Michelin tires or the next set of whatever competition tires would be, because as you know, whether it's a Lexus or a Cadillac or a Ford or a General Motors product, whenever one manufacturer, whether it's a tire manufacturer like Michelin or Ford, Chevy, you name it, whenever one vehicle or one OEM comes out with something that's better, the other one will buy the car and either copy it or what have you. But there's so much to learn and so much progress in technology from racing. When we come back, we'll finish our conversation with Terry and take your calls. Entertainment, GPS, heated seats, backup cameras, and start-stop technology. Just a few of the electrical demands we put on today's vehicles. AGM or absorbent glass mat batteries are up to the challenge. They're precision engineered to offer the ultimate combination of power, durability, and reliability. What affects battery performance? Harsh climates, frequent stopping, and aggressive driving all put wear on your battery. With its compressed cell design and glass mat separators, AGM batteries are built to excel in these types of conditions. Learn more about AGM advantages at autobatteries.com.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
The months between October and February top the list for accidents, damage, and injuries. And while safety technology on today's vehicles is great, it's no match for Mother Nature. CarStar is the authority on winter driving accidents, repairing thousands of vehicles each year damaged in snowy, icy conditions. Here are a few winter driving tips courtesy of CarStar. Check visibility. Add de-icer to your windshield washer fluid. Make sure your wipers are free of ice and all mirrors are clear, and check vehicle lighting. Slow down and stay back. Drop your speed to a safe limit and leave extra distance between your vehicle and the one in front of you. And if your rear wheels skid, take your foot off the accelerator and steer in the direction you want your front wheels to go. If your front wheels skid, take your foot off the gas and shift to neutral. As you skid sideways, the vehicle will slow and traction will return. Find more safety tips at carstar.com. At CarStar, they don't just repair cars, they repair your car.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
The airlines like to have sales. Summer getaway sales, holiday sales, winter sales. Truth is, at any moment, some airline somewhere is on sale with low fares to great destinations. Travelocity knows exactly what's going on, who's on sale, to where, and when, at over 700 airlines worldwide. We even have this nifty feature that lets you look at a calendar so that you can see exactly the days the great fares are available. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere. AOL keyword, travel.
Hun, guess my temperature.
It's 2 a.m. Go to sleep.
Come on, one guess.
Higher, 98.
Higher.
Higher, 99.
You're getting warmer. Wait, I'm getting warmer.
Cold symptoms keeping you from getting a good night's sleep? Get NyQuil, the nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever so you can sleep better to feel better medicine. Use as directed.
One more guess.
100?
Yes. Tell her what she's won, Bob.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your hosts, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you join us today. It's just really exciting for me to come to you every Saturday. Hannah will take your calls. We're going to open the phone banks at 888-227-2546. I want to share with you a little bit. I'm going to share with you a phrase, a terminology, a thermal shock. And I'll get into that just a bit, but I want to welcome back Terry Saveston. And Terry, you're back with us now, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
The volume of people's growing, and so cell signals are getting transferred around a little bit out here.
I can
Sorry
only
about
imagine.
that, Bobby.
I want to say this, and this is, folks, this is the true mark of a true broadcast professional. In the broadcast industry, and Lord knows we've had like 13 remote broadcasts from Daytona Beach in various venues there. Something always technical goes wrong. I mean, you lose a signal or your microphone or you have feedback. I mean, I can't tell you to have echo, which is the worst thing that you could possibly. But Terry, I want to congratulate you because when you lost us, we did not lose you, and you continued on to share with us where you were, and as though we were still connected, and yet you couldn't hear me, and you didn't know whether we were on live broadcast or not. So I know you're not looking for a pat on the back, but I'm telling you, hats off. What a great professional way to handle a crisis. It's great crisis management, as Jonathan just said during the break. But anyway, just in closing, welcome back, and give us one last overview of the Rolex 24-hour.
Well, I'm looking out over the infield, and I've got a Ferris wheel about a half mile away out by Lake Lloyd. The infield road course is this beautiful green area that no cars are on yet, but it's surrounded by campers as far as you can see. You swing around and look to the beach. They've taken the area in turn 3 and 4, and that's for tents only. So the whole section down in the infield of turn 3 and 4 is, you can see the banking all the way around because it's nothing but tents. Then you slowly pan back closer and you see the driver's RV area, and then you come to the garage where there's over 47 haulers lined up here with their back gates open with a backup car sitting inside there, but the fans are packing into the garage. All the cars are going through final checks. You've got a mile-long stadium stand here that overlooks this all, the World Center of Racing, which tonight we're having the Taste of 24 up there, and that there's just an amazing event happening here, and it's just a beautiful place to be. This is really, truly the kickoff for Speed Weeks here at Daytona National Speedway, Daytona Beach.
Well, no doubt, and thank you so much for providing that the verbal picture of really what you see and what goes on every year at the Rolex 24 there at the Daytona International Speedway, which, you know, as we all know, well, we know, but maybe there are folks tuned in that do not know, the Daytona International Speedway is the world's first racing stadium after the $400 million remake of the track. Yeah. And just unbelievable, and it's a venue that continues to lead the pack and lead the way, and the seats there, and folks, just a tidbit of information. Even though there are multiple levels and what they call fan chutes where the fan can come up in the elevator and go out, there is not a row of seats as high as you go up that require more than 20 steps to get to the seat. I remember that in some of the stats that were issued on the stadium, Terry. So you got to be in heaven, and I really want to thank you and all the folks at WNDB 1150 there and all the surrounding area for participating with us here on Bobby Likis Car Clinic. A great job you always do, man.
Thanks, Bobby. Appreciate it. Yeah, this stadium actually had to be, the curvature of the earth had to be considered in building it. It's so long. So it is just an amazing day here at Daytona National Speedway. The next 24 to 36 hours, really, it starts at 2:30, goes to 2:30 tomorrow. Just a wonderful time here at Daytona. And looking forward to it, Bobby, in a great way. Like I say, Speed Weeks is here at Daytona National Speedway. It is time to have some fun.
Yeah. Well, we'll let you go to have some fun and enjoy, and keep up the great work, and always great to have you join us on Bobby Likis Car Clinic, Terry.
Thanks a lot, Bobby. Have fun.
Well, Well, there you have it, folks. That just doesn't get any better than that. Now, a little note from a technical standpoint. No, not a car technical thing. Terry mentioned the curvature of the earth. So the front straightaway is 9/10 of a mile long. And as such, when they made the steel girder and the steel framing for that straightaway, they included a 7-inch curvature in the steel structure, because it's 9/10 of a mile, and for every mile of earth there's 1 inch, or there's 8 inches of curvature. So they actually put in 7 inches of curvature in the structural shaping of, I mean, think about that. And another little tidbit, if I remember correctly, this was a project that started in 2013 and was finished in 2016, and all during the modification upgrade of the track to a stadium, they still held these races and what have you. So it's like remodeling your home, if you've ever done that, which I have, and you're still living it during the remodeling, which we tried to do but couldn't. We were actually out of our home for 6 months during what started out as a shower remake and ended up as a total interior, walls, exterior. I won't go there, only to say that if you've ever remodeled your home or any structure, whether it's a business or a home or what have you, you know that the one thing leads to another. And in our repair business, to that end, it's kind of a smile now, because in the repair business, you go in for A, and next thing you know, you have A, B, C, and D, and you're always faced in the automotive repair and service industry with how far do we go? And I'll give you a good example of that. Let's say that you have a used car with a used engine, well used, and something catastrophic happens to it. Maybe it overheated, and you have to take it apart. So it needs head gaskets. Well, does it need only head gaskets? Probably not. Depends on you. And let's say that you're driving down the interstate and you got that exit that's like, just another 6 or 8 tenths of a, you can see it up ahead. You can see the exit, and although you don't know if it's a half a mile or what have you, but let's just say it's a half a mile up. Your engine's running hot because you've lost a radiator hose, or a thermostat stuck, or radiator's leaking, or whatever. And you say, well, I can make it. Well, you make it, and the last 100 feet that you drive your car, it reaches a critical point, and the head, because it's so overheated, bows up and warps. And when the head warps, the engine is still running, and the compression from the cylinder that is adjacent to where the head is warped will blow out its pressure through the gasket, and that's what's called a blown head gasket. And so how do you know that? Well, you can go to like any parts store, automotive parts store, and you can buy what's called an engine block tester. And an engine block tester, is about the furthest thing from technical as you can get, because really it looks like a turkey baster syringe. It's a PVC pipe that's clear, so polypropylene pipe that's maybe 2 inches in diameter and 8 inches long, with a syringe bulb on top and a check valve in the bottom, and you put a blue liquid in this, maybe a couple, 3 inches, fingers worth or inches worth, in the bottom of this syringe. And then you put that into the radiator when the engine is operating, or it's warm and the engine's running. Now you have to be careful. You're not there to draw coolant out of the radiator. And you have to be really careful if you're going to take a radiator cap off of an engine that's overheating. But in the testing stages, that's what you do. And then once you get carefully the radiator cap off, and of course you wouldn't do that with an engine that is bursting with heat, so you'd wait till it cooled down some. You take the radiator cap off. Then you take this syringe and you put the mouth of the syringe over the coolant that you could see bubbling down there. You don't want the coolant in the syringe, you want the bubbles, because the bubbles are not air, they're exhaust gas fumes. And when these exhaust gas fumes get into the syringe, it reacts with, chemically, the blue liquid, and guess what? The blue liquid turns green, and then If it's really bad, it turns yellow. And so you can test for a minor leak or a major leak of your head gasket by using this engine block tester. And so there's not a shop that I know of that doesn't have one of those engine block testers around and the chemical. And you can buy, of course, replacement chemical. So it's a great way for you, if you are a do-it-yourselfer, or if you just want to test your engine, you're not a do-it-yourselfer, but you're concerned that you have a car that's overheated. And I mentioned earlier about thermal shock. Let me share this with you. This is what thermal shock really amounts to, and these tech tips come from Motorrad, which is a partner of ours. And Motorrad covers the largest percentage of radiator caps and thermostats of all offerings on the aftermarket. I mean, it's a fantastic company that now is actually getting also into some other controls, electronic controls for engine vehicles. But I won't get into that right now. I just want to share with you, courtesy of Motorrad, thermal shock. Thermal shock within a cooling system and how it affects gaskets. That's when low amounts of coolant in the radiator can lead to a loss in the cooling system's ability to do its job, which results in overheating. Thermal shock is the uneven expansion of materials and created when the coolant temperature fluctuates rapidly and repeatedly. If thermal shock occurs, it almost always compromises the integrity of the gaskets in that affected area. In turn, this means these gaskets are likely to fail prematurely and will continue to fail unless the cause of thermal shock is eliminated. What does that mean? It means that you could take a healthy car that holds 2 gallons of coolant and you could draw out 3 quarts of that coolant. Now you do not have a completely filled with liquid cooling system. What you have indeed, or you have air pockets, and air pockets don't transmit heat. So you have a thermostat that gets air and then a splash of boiling water or boiling coolant, as it were. And that splash is the same thing that happens against gaskets and what have you. And when that happens, the engine gets hot, cold, or hot, not so hot. Not cold, never cold. Hey, folks, coming up, we got a special guest in the house. He's on the phone now. I'll wait until the break when he comes back. James Bell, who is the Director of Corporate Communications for Kia, that's going to tell us about the new Telluride SUV. Kia's gone and done it again. Don't touch that dial. We'll be back with James Bell. We recently sat down with Kate Searlick, Global Product Management Lead with Johnson Controls. Kate talked about the advantages of AGM batteries, noting they outperform traditional flooded batteries when partially charged, a key benefit if your normal driving consists of shorter trips. Let's hear from Kate.
Today's charging systems are not negatively affected by installing an AGM battery, and no modifications are needed for the alternator or the charging system. In fact, an AGM battery actually performs better when partially charged than a standard flooded battery. This means if you're not driving long enough distances to fully charge the battery, an AGM battery more efficiently performs and not consume additional power from the alternator. We were able to validate this in fleet testing we conducted in Las Vegas, where we witnessed AGM batteries providing up to twice the service life of a standard flooded battery.
AGM batteries help meet the electrical demands put on today's vehicles, and Johnson Controls is the world's largest producer of automotive AGM batteries. Learn more at autobatteries.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Waking up can be a chore, but mornings knocking on my front door. Know just what I'll do. Put on a pot of Folgers brew. Mountain grown aroma hits the spot. Helps me give all that I've got. An opportunity to start smiling and happy. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
I'm privileged to be involved with Capstone Adaptive Learning, formerly known as United Cerebral Palsy, for over 25 years. Since 1953, Capstone has provided quality care programs for persons with developmental disabilities like autism, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, and intellectual disabilities. Dr. Sherry White with her team are dedicated to Capstone's clients, and 100% of your contributions stay local to serve those in this community. Go to capstoneadaptivelearning.org to see the difference Capstone makes.
Technology moves at the speed of innovation, and today, that's lightning fast. So when you get your hands on the latest tech, don't forget to do the right thing with your old devices. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old tech device as easy as purchasing new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the responsible recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find lots of tips to simplify your recycling, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Television sets, video game consoles, smartphones, tablets, they're all recyclable. Don't let them clog up your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org. You're sharp enough to get the latest tech tools into your home. Now be responsible enough to get your old devices to the recycler. That's greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. As we have had in the past, a special guest this morning, James Bell, Director of Corporate Communications for Kia Motors, who's on the hotline with us now, just back from the North American International Auto Show in Detroit with news of the Kia Telluride SUV. This is going to be an exciting time. James, welcome back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Bobby, it's always a pleasure to hear your voice and be with your great audience. Thank you.
You know, I know that you just returned from the North American International Auto Show. Give us an overview of the show. A lot of attendance to this year, and was it as big as ever?
Well, actually, it was a bit of a strange year. You know, the auto show has really become kind of one of the crown jewels in the auto show global circuit. With its January timeframe, and the pressure from CES and the LA Auto Show and just manufacturers doing a lot more things individually and not connecting their events to an auto show started putting some pressure on Detroit. And so they're now shifting. Starting in the year 2020, the show will be in June as opposed to the traditional January timeframe. So this was the last frozen one, if you will, the last cold Detroit Auto Show. And so attendance was down, but the energy was really high. Some really cool vehicles are introduced and reminded us all why we love the car business so much.
Well, no doubt. And a June Detroit venue sounds like a better idea to me. Let's zoom in on the Telluride. What makes a Telluride Kia different from other Kia SUVs?
Well, I think it's a couple different factors. First off, you know, and I'm not saying this as an employee of Kia Motors, but just after we've now introduced the vehicle and seen the public's reaction to it, you know, the work that we have done so hard on design and refinement and really kind of giving customers much more for their dollar than they would expect is really hitting its stride. You know, we really knocked it out of the park with the Stinger last year, and really continuing this now with the Telluride. Some of the things that jump out at me when I think about what happened in Detroit is you know, some A-list media coming up to me from the big car magazines and saying, hey, you know what, that interior in that Telluride rivals stuff we see from Range Rover, rivals things we see from Mercedes. You guys are really, not only from a design perspective, but from the materials that are chosen and the refinement and how they're all stitched and screwed together. It's just a really exquisite interior. And something else that really caught on, which, to be honest with you, I was not expecting, was from an exterior design, is what we called in our presentation big, bold, and boxy. We wanted to celebrate the fact that it is on the large side of the mid-size SUV category, so it's good for 7 or 8 people, depending on how many seats you plug in there. But we really wanted to kind of celebrate its boxiness. And the media has really captured onto that and said it's almost like a revival of what the Chevy Tahoe or Ford Explorer or something like that, or Expedition used to be, where it was, you know, a big, serious box, which allows something that's kind of funny, interior space, utility. Put the U back in SUV with a capital this time. And I think that's really what people love, in the fact that so many of the crop of SUVs that are coming out and crossovers are really becoming slaves to, you know, kind of aggressive modern design. And then that limits their interior space, because now you're lowering the roof line, raising the belt line. You're doing things to make it look interesting on the outside,
but that can then kind of cramp your style on the inside. And the Telluride bucks that trend and goes right back the other way and says, no, big and bold and boxy is best.
Well, I think Kia knows best. If you just look back at the last 5 years or 10 years for that matter, but specifically, and you mentioned the Stinger, that was a game changer for Kia. And
yes.
Almost every week, James, here on Car Clinic, I'll get someone that calls me and says, what do you think about the new this or the new that, the new cars? And Kia is always at the top of the list. And if you mention the word Kia just from a perspective of service and reliability and design and all the things that I know you as Kia corporate would want to hear, that's what the buzz on the street is. And for me, the Telluride is sort of an invasion of that space, and I'm proud to see Kia do it because I know that Kia has had success in the past. Folks, we're talking with James Bell, the Director of Corporate Communications for Kia. James, who's the target audience? Who's the ideal driver for the Telluride?
Well, I think it's kind of a twofold answer there. Number one, what we see is the traditional family crossover buyer, somebody who's maybe coming out of a Chevy Traverse or a Ford Explorer or a Honda Pilot, something like that. We see this as being a slight step up in size, design refinement as I just described, but then doing it at the Kia value story with that great 100,000-mile warranty, more technology on board than you would get for your dollar elsewhere. So we see that traditional buyer, but I think we're also going to see people kind of gravitating back to, as I said earlier, about the kind of the bold boxiness of the vehicle. People saying, you know what, okay, I need an SUV, but I actually want a box. I want something that can hold a lot of stuff. I want something that I can pick people up at the airport and then still put their luggage behind them in that back section of the car, as opposed to asking them to put the luggage on their laps in that third row. I think that, again, the people are just thinking it's time for that utility, but I don't want the fuel efficiency or the drive penalty. A proper, or what we consider a traditional SUV, would be a body-on-frame type vehicle. Of course, a vast majority of them now are, in the crossover space, are all unibody, as is the Kia. But then it kind of crosses both worlds. It's got that toughness and that space that you get from doing a body-on-frame, but does it in a unibody way, so it's much more comfortable to drive and quiet, and gives that car-like drive that most just about everybody you talk to says they're looking for in their next SUV.
Yeah, got it. So James, is this the first Kia designed and assembled completely in the U.S.?
Well, let's see. Let's work this through. It was designed in our facility here in Southern California. It being built and put together in our factory in West Point, Georgia, and will be then, of course, sold predominantly to the U.S. market. We also see some business for it in parts of Asia and the Middle East, other areas that have lower fuel prices and embrace those larger vehicles. This is a vehicle made by Americans, built by Americans, for Americans. It really is a bold play, getting right in the face of, as I said, Chevrolet, Ford, Toyota, you name it.
And when will it hit the showroom floor?
We ramping up production in Georgia right now. In fact, I had a conversation with our plant manager yesterday, and he said that he's really pleased with the early builds and expecting to get them out sooner than we even expected. Looking at probably, I would say, you see pretty good coverage in dealerships by the early part of March, maybe even late February.
Well, just one more question. Share with our Car Clinic listeners and viewers a little bit about the technology available in cabin with the new Telluride.
Yeah, so first off, as I said earlier, Kia is all about over-delivering value and technology for the dollar that you pay for it. So from a technology perspective, we were one of the first manufacturers to offer Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It's got a huge screen in the the center of the dash, a very kind of long and low and lean dash line, so it really gives a sense of space. I think that's where the comparisons with Range Rover also came into play. And one of the things we're really excited about is as we get nearer to what we'd call, autonomous driving, this is Kia's boldest move that way. Now, it's not to the point where you jump in the car, push a button, and say, take me to grandma's house, but we're getting closer. This vehicle, the Telluride, is loaded with with sensors and technology to watch all corners of the road as you're driving, warn you when things are changing to the side, to the rear, to the front, anywhere around. So, and can also take on some of the highway driving in an autonomous way. But one of the things I think that's neat is because we have all this technology and sensors on board, it has a system which will, once you park the car, let's say you've got a kid in the passenger side coming out the rear door. If there's a car coming up that way, or a bicycle, or any sort of, the car perceives any sort of threat through there, it will keep that rear door locked until that threat passes.
Wow.
Again, you've got this vehicle just loaded with these sensors. I think it's great that Kia said, well, let's keep some of these sensors on when the car's off and protect the passengers until they're able to get to the safe sidewalk.
Well, I can't wait to drive one. I can't wait to see one. And for our Car Clinic audience, a website so that they can preview, I'm sure there are pictures online, preview the new Telluride from Kia.
Absolutely. Well, the easy place to go would be to kia.com. We've got a whole section on the Telluride there. But I would also challenge your listeners to jump on the computer and just Google Kia Telluride Detroit Auto Show. You'll see a tremendous amount of photos, as well as a special driving event that we have going on at the show where we took people out and did some serious rock crawling right there on the floor of the Detroit Auto Show.
Wow. So you have luxury, you have the rugged vehicle, and then you have all the space. I can't wait to crawl around in all that space. James Bell, Director of Communications for Kia. James, always great to have you join us. Thank you so much. You'll have to come back soon.
Thanks, Bobby. We're overdue. I appreciate it.
What a cool guy. He's always so congenial. I mean, here's the corporate, and let me give you a little information about James Bell, folks, and then we'll take your calls at 888-227-2546. So James originally stepped into the OEM world as the Consumer Affairs Officer for General Motors. That was where I first actually met James Bell, and we had him on Car Clinic, I don't know, half a dozen times. And I asked him specifically the first time, well, what's your job? What's a communications, what is a consumer affairs officer for GM? What do you do? And of course, you always try to, you being me in the media, we always try to get an insight to corporate and what have you. He said, well, Bobby, he said, I'm the link between the closed door boardroom and the buyer in the showroom and the consumer. And I thought that was what a hard line to walk that would be. I mean, how do you communicate and connect with the public? That would be us, and the consumers, and the buyers, and then you go to the boardroom and do that, in a politically correct fashion, because as you all know, corporations, and especially large corporations like GM, are some, I can only imagine, a little bit difficult to deal with, because they have their set ways, they have their set procedures and what have you. But he did a whale of a job. Well, so why is he with Kia? Well, just like a lot of designers and engineers that were with other OEMs, BMW and Volkswagen, some of those high-powered executives went over to Kia because Kia paid them more money. Kia gave them whatever that in that big world of large executive firms and layers and layers of management. And so James Bell, and if you've never seen him, you should check him out. He's a car guy. He is really a cool car guy, and I think that Kia probably gave him a better home, so to speak. And I know last year he was on with us promoting the Stinger, and of course that was one of my, when Mercedes first came out, or well, prior to Mercedes introducing the CLA on the market. If you remember, that was the first Mercedes. It was $29,900, so under $30,000 Mercedes. And I decided that I wanted to know more about that automobile, and did, and promoted that car even before it was known. And I've driven them, I've ridden in the CLA, and it was it was the first front-wheel drive Mercedes ever offered in the United States. and it was a success. And this year, as I understand, they're actually upgrading the CLA, and it'll be an even better automobile. Now, you're going to spend, if a car is 30 grand, by the time you put your options that you really want to personalize the car, you're going to spend another $10,000. And so you're looking at a $40,000 automobile, but it was a beautiful car. To that end, the Stinger, in that same time frame, but later, but in the same timeline, I might say, I promoted the Stinger, even though they were not even on the market yet. And Kia has done a whale of a job with the Stinger. Those cars. There's a lot of executives with BMW that are, saying, well, there's another customer we lost. And so that's really, it's one of the greatest things that I can think of that we have with our capitalism, with what drives our company. It's consumer choice, and that's really terrific. Now, you heard James talking about the big box, the Telluride. Make no mistake, it's going to be a nice-looking automobile, but they're going to make it, and I can't wait to sit in one and drive one. That vehicle is going to be a big box SUV, so you can haul your stuff in it. Now, I'm not talking about 55-gallon drums of oil. That's not, your stuff is all the baseball bats and the sporting goods and what have you. So it's just it's fun for me, and I hope fun for you, and educational to promote the different manufacturers' automobiles. And this is not for paid. We do this because I want to do it, and I enjoy doing it. And I hope that you enjoy and appreciate the insight that we get. And I ask some questions, some leading questions, like when folks like James Bell, who is the Director of Corporate Communications for Kia, joins us and shares with us all the new things and new cars, opportunities that's going to be on the showroom floor. Hey, that's all that we have for this hour. We have another great hour coming up, so sit back, relax, take a break, and I'll see you then. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
Winter is an especially important time to be car care aware. Here are a few suggestions courtesy of the Car Care Council. Days are shorter, so make sure interior and exterior lights are working properly. Best way to warm your engine? Drive gently at the start. Double check your emergency kit, and don't forget your ice scraper and snow brush. For more great tips, visit carcare.org. And while you're there, order your free copy of the Car Care Guide for your glove box. That's carcare.org. Berryman's B12 Chem Tool features HEST, or High Energy Solvent Technology. Using a combination of stronger solvents, HEST technology helps maximize one-tank cleanup of intake valves, fuel injectors, carburetors, and combustion chambers. But don't take our word for it. According to Stephen B., Berryman products have been part of my automotive care and maintenance program since 1996. From additives and cleaners to sealants, Berryman products are a must for any gearhead and automotive enthusiast. Learn more about Berryman B12 Chem Tool and other great products at berrymanproducts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
If you're familiar with the Kulseford section of the newspaper, you probably understand this message quite well. You see, in the Kulseford section, everything gets abbreviated. Consonants, vowels, prepositional phrases, the very building blocks of our language are thrown right out the window. And that makes it difficult when you're trying to sell your car. You've got a limited amount of space to work with, and by the time you abbreviate the description of your car down to a couple of fragmented sentences, it sounds less like a car and more like a Bluck sedan with sniffed new condition lemals. No wonder more people are selling their cars through eBay Motors. They can post unlimited text and photo descriptions, and with a nationwide marketplace, they're likely to sell it for more. Plus, both parties can be covered by eBay's vehicle protection program. Buyers are happy, sellers are happy, and no one's abbreviating. eBay Motors, a better way to sell your car.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Count down to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll-free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And good morning. Welcome to this hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Also, the 888 Car Clinic number is alive and well and open. That's 888-227-2546. Miss Hannah will take your call and put you in the queue, and I will be more than happy to put you on the air and answer your car questions. Or I see that we already have Ron from Nebraska will not come back from the hard break coming up. We're going to put Ron on first because he was first to call in. So if you'd like to get in, please call in earlier versus later so we don't get so rushed toward the end of this hour. It's a great day. It's a beautiful day here. I hope so in your hometown as well. We're broadcasting from the center of the automotive universe, located in the beautiful city of Pensacola, Florida, which is growing by leaps and bounds. And Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you in part by K-Seal, the one-step permanent multi-purpose system for coolant leak repair, including head gaskets, engine blocks, water pumps, and radiators, of course. You can learn more at kseal.com, and you can learn about your car and new cars and whether or not you should keep your car. In fact, that's Ron's question, and we're going to hear from Ron, who has a 99 Mercedes. Should he keep it and buy the bigger bullet and trade it, or what? When we come back, I'll have that conversation, and we'll all learn together exactly where he is with his car ownership. Don't touch that dial. I'll be back. This car repair spotlight brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. This week, we had an F-150 in with 125,000 miles and extreme brake noise. Our inspection determined it needed new pads, rotors, and one wheel bearing. So we reached out to our local O'Reilly Auto Parts professional, ordered the Brake Best pads and the Brake Best Select rotors. We chose the Brake Best Select rotors because they're factory painted, which stops the normal rust and corrosion seen on rotor hardware. During the brake job, we made sure to treat the caliper slides with Seal Glide so the calipers move freely, pads wear evenly, and the brake pedal has that firm feel. Disc brakes can feel a bit spongy when the caliper has any corrosion or rust buildup. Bottom line, new brakes should work just like the vehicle's brakes did when it came off the showroom floor. This F-150's owner was happy to have his truck back, roadworthy and on time. Another great reason our first call for parts is O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. We recently had an 09 Honda Pilot come into the shop with 169,000 miles on the odometer. The vehicle owner said the cabin was starting to smell like coolant, and he was concerned. Upon closer inspection, we found a heater core leak. Choices were to keep the vehicle and make a repair, which at best is half a day's labor plus parts, or sell the vehicle and buy a different used car that could have its own set of problems. We presented a third option, K-Seal. You've heard me talk about K-Seal before. Well, I don't just talk about it, we actually use the product in our service shop. It's a pour-in solution designed to stop leaks and help prevent future leaks. Other sealers use sodium silicate, which has a tendency to clog the system. K-Seal features ceramic technology that's designed to repair the leak without clogging. Our customer went with K-Seal, and 1 month later, no more leak. Learn more about K-Seal at kseal.com. Don't just seal it, K-Seal it.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Another lending success story from LendingTree.com.
Car dealers like playing games. They play percentage points, they play markups, but I don't like playing with my money. So I got my auto loan through LendingTree.com. I filled out one simple form, a marketplace of banks and lenders competed over it, and I got 4 offers back within hours. After all, the car buying game is a lot easier to win when you're holding all the cards.
LendingTree.com. When banks compete, you win. For additional information and state license disclosures, please visit our website located at lendingtree.com.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Okay, folks, let's get started. 888-227-2546. The first trip we'll take is to Nebraska. And Ron is on the hotline with us now. Ron, I want to welcome you to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. How are you doing today?
Oh, doing pretty good, and I appreciate you taking my call and your experience, of course, Bobby. I need a second opinion.
Okay.
We have a 1999 Mercedes-Benz. It's the E320 4MATIC, which we bought from our family estate. It was father-in-law's car.
Right.
99,000 miles. Question is whether or not to keep it or sell it. I sunk a lot of money in just to bring it right up to near new condition, and so I'm over the book price.
Well, we'll set book prices and those things aside. Let me share with you a quick story. A friend of mine for 30 years bought from an estate sale a 97 SL 500. Was a beautiful black automobile, and he brought it in, and the car had multiple issues. Now, you said you had brought yours up to roadworthy condition, so let me share just a couple things that we did with this car. We did suspension work because it had some tie rod ends and ball joints that were not healthy. It also had severe vacuum issues that ran us around in circles for quite a while because it had some defective cracked vacuum components, and it also had rodent damage because, as I said, it was an estate sale car, Ron, and it had been stored in Massachusetts in a barn for X amount of time. And the car originally, as this gentleman told me, sold for $2,000 or $2,500. He paid $6,500 for the vehicle, and here's the bottom line: we spent $8,000 on that car. Now, granted, we changed wheels, we changed suspension, we fixed the third brake light. And some of the work that we did, we had to follow, I think, the previous owner, or maybe it was the person that bought it from the estate sale that thought he could fix it up, because the third brake light had 0 bulbs in it, those broken tabs. So, I said, well, I'll just put bulbs and fix the tabs. Well, it wasn't that as well. It was a wire that was cut, but I had to run down the deck lid into the back of the car to find where the wire was cut. And I don't know how it got cut, except that I think somebody was there. It also had some cracked modules, and it had rodent damage under the hood as well. So but the bottom line is that car, the top would not release. When we finished with our work, the top worked, the door locks worked, the car drove. That all 4 brakes were totaled. The car was so dangerous to drive. Now, let's add that together. He spent $8,000. He paid $6,500, so he's got about $15,000 in a $75,000 97 SL 500. And I don't know where you can buy a car in known excellent condition, because when we finished, it was excellent, and we kept the car 2 months, and it was a personal project of mine, and so I just wanted to share with you what it really takes to upgrade a car. And the biggest issue that we had with this car were the rodent issue and the wear factor and the age factor. So when you said you've got upgraded on your 99 Mercedes, you're trying to determine whether or not you want to keep it, just in a short order as possible, what did you do to upgrade it, and how much did you already invest in the car?
Yes. Well, we purchased it from the estate for around $2,500.
Okay.
We put $3,800 into the vehicle and took it to what seemed to be and is a quality import dealer who repair shop gave us an estimate and did all the work bumper to bumper, just from exterior cracks and scratches to sensors, everything that was needed. And it runs out, drives great, but we now have a $6,000 car that probably the book says $3,000 to $4,000 on.
But see, where can you number one, and there's a lot of caveats here, but if you actually gotten this car over its used car hump, which means that its condition now is roadworthy, and you spent $4,000 on it, you can't go out and buy a like car in known roadworthiness condition for $6,000 or for $10,000. So I don't have I'm not concerned for you, and I don't have reservations with saying keep the car. But here's what I'd like to know. I'd like to know what condition the cooling system, the air conditioning system, the brakes, and the door seals and the vacuum locks and the heater. Does all of that work as it should?
Yes, it was always in an interior garage attached to the house, so we had heating and cooling gone through. That's A1, and air conditioner heater work as mentioned. We had brakes, rotors replaced, et cetera. So that's all new, you might say.
Well, then here's what I suggest. I think you should keep the car, and I think you should put it on a 6-month leash, not lease, leash. And by that, every 6 months you monitor the current condition of the vehicle, because that car is not going to roll over and die. You're not going to be driving it. Now, granted, you could have a fuel pump that goes out, and yeah, it would stop you on the side of the road. But usually, fuel pumps like timing chains, and you don't have to worry about that in that engine. Usually, fuel pumps and timing chains that will stop a car from starting will not put it down while it's driving, because once a fuel pump energizes and kicks off, it normally will run until you stop the car again, and then it stops, because getting an electric motor started that has worn commentators and other parts and pieces, that's where the real issue comes in. So what I'm saying is, I don't think you should be concerned with it will die with you going down the road, but I do think you need to weigh how often you have to go back to the service to have an alternator replaced, or to have a hood strut replaced, or to have a power window motor replaced. All of those little nickel and dime things that sometimes you get to the point of, well, I mean, I spent $4,000 on this car, and a month later now I got a power window that goes out. Well, so the power window, let it be. Fix that power window, but you have to keep this old new car to you, but this old used Mercedes that has been upgraded, you have to keep it upgraded. So just because you spent $4 doesn't mean you're not going to spend another $500, but make sure that you number one, if you like the service that you got, make sure you go back to that shop, because they know more about that car than any other newbie, any other new technician. You see my point?
Yeah,
I think you should keep it. It has a background. You like the car, obviously. You wouldn't have invested $4,000 in the car if not. So I don't have an issue. I do think that every fluid in that car should be changed for new, and the brakes. If they did a rotors and what have you, I still think that the brake fluid should be exchanged and new fluid put in, new coolant, service the transmission, differential. Those sorts of things, and you can bike those pieces and services one at a time. You could have the transmission service 1 month and wait another month and have the brakes flushed and then have the cooling system. Those are all things that are the body, the life, the fluids of the automobile that are the lifebloods of the vehicle, and that's what I do to my car, and it runs and it keeps on running. Any questions?
Well, the question would be, say if I maintain it as suggested, how many miles could we expect from a car that the quality seems top line?
Miles is not an issue with cars in a long time. 200, 250, 250. I mean, you listen to callers that call in here, and I've got Mike on the line here that's going to share a story about it anyway. But mileage is not the factor. Time is the factor. So the door rubbers and the door seals and the deck lid rubbers, all of those things, that's why it's so important to when you wash the car, wipe those door seals off, and if one starts to get out of position, make sure you tab it. You know, they got little plastic bullets that hold the rubbers in place. All those sorts of things are important, but you can run that car until you get tired of it, and if you get, just amortize it. Let's say you drive it for 5 years. So that's $1,000 a year or less. So there you go. That's what I recommend. Congratulations. I think you got a good car. And when I come back, we'll take another call at 888-227-2546. This Engine Care Spotlight is brought to you by Walker Products, a leading manufacturer of quality fuel system components and engine sensors. Today's vehicles are being pushed to new heights with increased fuel economy and fewer tailpipe emissions, which has created the need for a smarter and more sophisticated exhaust after-treatment system, featuring an array of sensors designed to help monitor and control the different aspects of vehicle operation and health. The EGT, or exhaust gas temperature sensor, plays a major role in multiple processes, and it's critical that the EGT is performing within their limits. But not all EGT sensors are created equal. Housing styles and materials vary, in addition to resistance types and temperature ratings. It's imperative that a consumer replace their EGT sensor with the correct OEM factory-style sensor. Walker Products has been supplying the automotive aftermarket since 1946 and manufactures all of its EGTs using only OEM-based sensors. Need a new sensor? Walker Products offers OE quality at aftermarket prices. Drive to walkerproducts.com. We recently worked on an 03 Buick Park Avenue with a 3.8 engine, and the vehicle had been a workhorse, 190,000 miles and more. That said, fuel economy had slipped from 24 mpg to 19. On cold startup, the check engine light flashed. In addition to rough idling, engine fuel trim pointed toward carbon issues. A quick scan revealed random misfire code P0300. The codes were cleared, and after a visual inspection of the ignition system and fuel filter change, we added a can of Berryman B12 Chem Tool to a fresh tank of fuel. After a 400-mile round trip and a second can of Berryman B12 Chem Tool, fuel economy was back to 24 miles per gallon and idle quality was restored. Many times, complex running issues are traced to carbon issues on today's vehicles. Fuel system maintenance starts with simple tank additives as the first step in carbon cleaning your engine. The next time your vehicle is sluggish or experiencing fuel economy that's not up to par, try Berryman B12 Chem Tool. Learn more at berrymanproducts.com. That's berrymanproducts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Telephone
From Geico Auto Insurance.
When calling Geico to switch your car insurance, you will not need acetaminophen, naproxen, indomethacin, ibuprofen, a cold compress, an on-call acupuncturist, or any other pain remedy. In 15 minutes, you could save 15% or more. If it were any more painless, you could do it in your sleep, which is theoretically possible since we offer complete 24-hour service. Call 1-800-947-AUTO, 1-800-947-AUTO. Geico Direct, the sensible alternative.
When you purchase the latest TV, tablet, or smartphone, don't forget to do the right thing with your old ones. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old devices as easy as buying new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find recycling tips, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Don't let your old tech tools clog your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to tune in. You tuned in today. I sure thank you. And and every Saturday from 10 till noon right here on your local AM and or FM radio stations across the nation, as well as watchbobbylive.com. So I'll wave at the cameras. For all you folks that are tuned in, watchbobbylive.com, you can feel free to ask a question, and my team will bring that question into the studio here. They're in the control room adjacent to our studio, and handling all of the daily chores and duties of making a broadcast possible. I want to share a little tidbit of information about oil changes, courtesy of the Car Care Council, our partners. Why do you need the service? Well, duh. Well, I mean, that's a no-brainer. Well, really, here's the bottom line. Periodic oil and filter changes help keep your engine clean on the inside. Dust and metallic shavings, condensation, even antifreeze can contaminate the motor oil. So, and the additives also break down over time and are also subject to contamination. So that's the why you should service your oil and filter. A typical service? Well, typical service occurs every 3,000 to 5,000 miles, maybe 7,500 miles with synthetic oils these days. But if you regularly make short trips in your car, or you drive in stop-and-go traffic, you idle for extended periods of time, or you drive in a dusty or dirty area, you might want to shortchange your oil or change it every 3,000 miles, and that's according to the Car Care Council what's important. And just remember, while oil doesn't go bad or get damaged, the additive package does wear out with oil. So that's another caveat, that's another little point of view that you need to know about. And a lot of manufacturers recommend extended oil drain intervals for some drivers, but also those same manufacturers recommend never changing, or like Ford, 150,000 miles on transmission fluid. Don't go there. I mean, you've got to change that fluid because that's oil. It's oil-based. It's a petroleum product, and it does oxidize, and when it oxidizes, it wears out. So those tips, courtesy of the Car Care Council. And for more information and how to protect your car, go to carcare.org. Let's go to Mike. Mike, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you join us.
Good morning, Bobby. Always really enjoy listening to you.
Good morning.
Your first guest this morning, his background was quite similar to a fellow that I met out in California. He was a neighbor of mine in Long Beach. And he started out in Ford, in some performance section of Ford. He bought a brand new wagon, station wagon, put a 427 in it with bucket seats. It was the only one that Ford ever left the factory like that. Later on, he left Ford and he went to Toyota. And he, during his stint there, he moved up to warranty vice president in Toyota. While at Toyota, he was instrumental in starting the Long Beach Grand Prix.
Wow.
And he did a lot of racing in the desert, Baja and stuff like that, motorcycles. He got interested in that, and he started TRD, Toyota Racing Development.
Wow.
After a while, a number of years there, he and some other fellows left Toyota, and they started Hyundai of America. Now, he had established an excellent reputation with all of the senior Toyota Japanese engineers, so he was very comfortable with them, and that developed also with the Hyundai. He left Hyundai and started Kia. Now, you talk about a car guy. This guy had done everything. He had visited me once here, and I always thought, boy, sure would be nice to be able to hook him up with you. His health will preclude him ever coming back here again. But he had such an interesting background. While he was at Kia, they had a new Kia that had an electrical problem. Some girls that had left college and were going down to the coast for spring break. The car broke down and went to a dealership. The dealer called him up and said, "We've got a problem." He said, "Well, what's the problem in electrical?" And he says, "Look, this is what I want you to do. I want you to give them a new car.
Wow.
I want you to pay for their trip down, their hotel, back, and I want you to get that car on a truck, and I want to see it here in 24 hours. He got this car back. He got one of his head electrical engineers on this new issue car, and he said, your whole job is to find out what the problem was. They found out what the problem was, and he said, Mike, that was the cheapest $50,000 warranty I ever spent. He said, if that would have gone through the whole National Highway Traffic Safety Program and all of that, he said it would have cost me billions.
Well, you know,
millions. And so he was just a real interesting guy. Some girls ended up with a really nice new car.
Well, so Mike, let me ask this question. What was his name?
So I just wanted to pass that along.
What was his name?
Lee Sawyer.
And
he lives in Rolling Hills Estates out there on the Palos Verdes Peninsula right now.
Well, he reminds me of a Bob Lutz, of course. Bob Lutz is the de facto car, most well-known car guy, at least in the U.S., but I find it very interesting. Of course, you know that Hyundai owns, as I understand, 48% of Kia. And so it was interesting to me to listen to you and to progress from one corporation to the next, to the next, to the next. So obviously, he really, it reminds me of Sergio, who, as you know, passed, who was a CEO of what was he? Chrysler and Ferrari. No, it was is it Ferrari Chrysler that owns Chrysler? Anyway,
I'm not.
That's okay. Anyway, so bottom line is there have been individual executives that have made their mark from one series to another, and just a really short story. I interviewed a gentleman from Most, and Most is a fiber. Most means media-oriented systems transfer, and that is when you've got an automobile that has 40 components or 50 modules on it, how do you connect all those modules? Well, the easy way that is to use the Most system, and the Most system, actually, no pun intended, is the least amount of wiring, because what the Most does is you put one fiber optic ring around the interior of the car. The wiring of the car is one fiber optic. And then if you want to put a laptop or a control head or a module or an ABS module or a navigation system, you get a Most compatible system. You cut the fiber, you plug it into the component in the input, and then you plug the part that you cut out into the output of the component. So in essence, you have seriesed the new component to the vehicle, which means that you can locate these components strategically within the car versus having to put everything under the dash or everything under the back seat. And to that end, that's what my car has a half a dozen modules in the trunk under where the rear spare tire is. It has two batteries. It has a huge car battery, and then it has the start-stop battery there. So it just amazes me when you look at, and I love to see new cars because they all work, and I love to see how the manufacturers locate those wires. And I'm even tempted, and I've done this a couple of times, to pull a fuse to see how smart the car was. The challenge of doing that, you can throw codes and you have to clear the codes, but and you can't do that while anything is running, of course. But anyway, thanks for sharing that information. And I will say this: it is quite possible that if this gentleman who lives on the West Coast would like, I'd be happy to interview him, and he can call me live on Saturday, just like Terry Saveston from Daytona. And then coming up, we've got another gentleman. Mike, have you heard, and folks, this is interesting, have you heard of digital license plates? Mike, you?
No, I haven't.
Well, there's a company that's manufacturing digital license plates, which means that you can put anything you like on the back of the plate, you can, and of course it all has to be within the state. And so far there are only 3 states that have legalized this plate. But we're going to invite the founder, the president, a CEO of the company that is manufacturing the license plates, because I think that's really a cool idea. And quite candidly, several years ago, I said, well, why don't we just have an easy-to-use digital license plate, just like, if you remember, the backup cameras, which every car should have, and newer cars do. We installed backup cameras on vehicles. The problem with that is you got to lay those wires. You got to invade the automobile. And make no mistake about it, it's not a do-it-yourselfer job with today's automobiles. You best not cut a wire, and you better not grab the hot lead for your new widget from an unknown hot lead, because that hot lead might not be able to carry the extra load of that system, just like when you put landing lights or Baja lights on a Jeep. You don't hook the lights to the battery. You hook the lights to a relay, and the relay connects the lights to the battery, and the switch only energizes the relay, so there's no load on the switch. Otherwise, it's like your starter. Forever there's a starter relay that connects the battery directly to the starter, because if you ran that cable through the ignition switch, you'd have to have an ignition switch the size of the steering wheel. So all that being said, very interesting. Mike, thank you so much for your call and for sharing that information. And do reach back to me if you reach out to your friend, and if he'd like to be a guest on Bobby Likis Car Clinic, I'd love to have him. We can do that in one of the hours, whether it's on the West Coast. Probably I would recommend this hour, which is the second hour. So it's 10 o'clock Eastern, it's 7 o'clock Western. So anyway, thank you so much. We've got a hard break coming up, folks. I want to share with you that now is the perfect segment coming up for you to call in with your car questions at 888-227-2546. Again, 888-227-2546 when I come back, and I'll do my best to help you keep your car healthy and in your garage and out of the service bay. Talking tunes? No, not the ones on your radio, the ones that allow you to reprogram your vehicle's factory computer without even popping the hood. The result is more power, more torque, and a better overall driving experience. We recently sat down with Jim McGinn, Vice President of Marketing for Power Tech. Jim touched on some of the additional products Diablo Sport has to offer.
In addition to the Diablo Sport lineup of tuners, Diablo Sport also offers Jammer cold air intake systems and Hooker Blackheart exhaust kits. These kits work in concert with the Predator 2, Intune i3, and Trinity 2 programmers to deliver increased fuel economy, mileage, and overall performance for your gas truck or SUV.
Folks, Diablo Sports performance products make the perfect holiday gift, and now is a perfect time to buy with their holidays savings. How cool is that? You get up to 20% off SRP on their extensive lineup of premium performance products. Learn more at DiabloSport.com. That's DiabloSport.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
More than 1 million wild animals are killed each year illegally. Poaching is a major threat to our country's wildlife. I'm Tom Barry. I'm an actor with a desire to preserve living space for wildlife. The Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust does just that. Works with private landowners to protect wildlife, to preserve natural habitats. To learn more or to work with the Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust, call 800-729-SAVE. That's 800-729-SAVE, or visit wildlifelandtrust.org. Thank you.
Did you know 26 million Americans have kidney disease and most don't know it?
The day I was diagnosed, I didn't know what to do. I called the National Kidney Foundation, and the young lady who answered stayed on the phone with me and walked me through step by step. She too was surviving kidney disease. And she showed me there could be life after kidney disease.
Visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org. Now, you know.
We're a land of cynics. We don't believe anything anymore. You know why? Because we've been told we've won $1 million, that it's new and improved, that it slices and dices, That our favorite singer is still alive? That we'll be prosecuted if we cut off the tags? And of course that everything is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So when we hear the words customer service, we don't believe it. Travelocity isn't surprised if you're a little skeptical when they say they have excellent customer service. And that there's actually a pleasant face behind this website. A living, breathing person with a supercharged computer full of answers. Someone who's willing to help when you get lost. And most of all, someone that will actually pick up the phone when you call with a question or a concern. Customer service is just another example of how Travelocity puts you in control of travel. Chances are you'll never have to use it, but it's good to know it'll be there if you need it. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Folks, you hear me talk about CarStar, which is North America's largest multi-shop operator network of independently owned collision repair facilities, offering expert body repair and paintless dent repair, storm damage repair, and 24/7 accident assistance. CarStar delivers national scale, consistent, high-quality vehicle repairs. But what I haven't mentioned, perhaps, I'd like to share with you briefly the charitable side and support that CarStar provides. Driven Brands Charitable Foundation, Children's Miracle Network, Make-A-Wish Foundation of America, our National Military Recognition Month, the National Auto Body Council's Recycled Rides, It Can Wait initiatives, Skills USA, and many other programs across the country. So heaven forbid you should have an accident. Heaven forbid a tree should fall on your car and crash it. But whatever happens, seek a CarStar associate store. For more information, carstar.com. Now we'll take a call from Alex in Texas. 888-227-2546 is the number for you to call. Alex, thanks for holding. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Good morning, Bobby.
Good morning, sir. What can I do for you?
I had a question on a 08 Escape that I own. When the weather gets cold, I live like really deep down in South Texas, so it's like a subtropical weather.
Right.
But when it gets cold, the gas pedal sticks. Usually on cold start, the gas pedal will stick. It won't move. So I have to press hard on it like 2 to 3 times, and it'll like unlock.
Okay.
And sometimes when I take off, it'll do it. So it is a little dangerous.
Yeah.
It doesn't do it all the time, but when it gets cold, there's like a 50-50 chance that it'll do.
Okay. I know what's wrong with it, and at one point in time, and I'm surprised that it's not drive-by-wire, but I obviously it's not, or that wouldn't be the problem because there's no cable if it's drive-by-wire. The throttle body. Do you know what a throttle body looks like?
Yes.
Okay. And so, folks, for you, a throttle body is an aluminum housing that bolts onto the mouth. It is the mouth of the car. And the throttle body has a single plate, and some cars have more than one plate, but for the description purposes, has a single plate. When you let off the throttle, the plate closes. But it doesn't close all the way, because if it closes all the way when the throttle body, which is made of aluminum, is hot, when the car cools down, the aluminum contracts, and when it does, it will pinch the plate, so that when you get in the car, Alex, which is your case, in the morning on a cold day, that the plate is seized because the housing that it has relaxed in when hot is now contracted, and it pinches the plate. So what has to be done, it's a very easy fix. You don't even have to take the throttle plate off. You clean the throttle plate. You make sure that the throttle plate is aligned properly in its bore, and it should never have been changed, but at one point in time, someone may have adjusted, trying to fix another problem, the idle. And there's what's called on Ford calls it a hard stop idle. What that means, if you disconnected the idle air control, which means the computer's side door that adjusts the air, the idle speed. In other words, you've got the throttle that you open. Well, if you don't open the throttle, how does the engine idle fast when it's cold? Well, there's a side door. So what we do is we disconnect electronically that side door, and then we adjust the idle speed somewhere between 470 and 500 RPM, which means that the throttle body plate is not all the way closed. It's cracked ever so slightly, so that when the throttle body cools down, it doesn't pinch the plate. And that's what's wrong with your car. It's a simple matter of aligning and adjusting and cleaning the throttle body and its plate stop.
Okay.
Got it?
I'll go ahead and I'll go ahead and do that, because sometimes I'm like, what if it happens when I'm at a light or something?
Well. Here's the point: when a car's hot, it shouldn't happen. If it does, then
it doesn't.
Okay, all right. Well, there you go. You
Okay.
just ambient temperature, even at 50 degrees, when you align the plate, that plate's never going to be where it is today, because where it is today, it's backed all the way off, and it finds its little happy home in a hot house, and then which is the throttle body, and then it shrinks and it pinches the plate. That's what's wrong with your car.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I'll go ahead and I'll do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You're welcome. Glad you called from Texas. We'll take another call from Chris, and we'll take your calls at 888-227-2546. Chris, thanks for holding. Good morning. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Hey, good morning, Bobby. My question has to do with I've got squeaks in this Grand Marquis. Seems like from the front end. It's intermittent, like when it rains. Or it's real damp, don't hear it. But when it gets drier, I get these squeaks. Now, it's been recommended that I get AT205 reseal and put it in a spray bottle and go around the suspension component and spray that on there.
Well, that's the way. You may as well just wet it with a hose. That's not a way to fix the problem. The squeaks come because either the ball joints or the A-frame bushings or the sway bar bushings or sway bar ends have worn, and you have metal on metal. So let me ask you a question. I don't know if you've tried this or not, but with the car in your driveway, on a level driveway, you can put your knee on the front bumper and on one side and depress the car and rock the car back and forth. Have you? Well, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So do that.
I've done that.
Okay. Can you make it squeak?
No.
Isn't that just like
it doesn't squeak. Where it squeaks is transitions, like we have a lot of intersections that have a little like walk path that's pavers.
Right. Yeah.
When you go over those pavers, and especially if you're turning to the left or the right, it causes this squeak. Now, notice that when it's wet, okay, like when it's raining.
Right, sure.
Has been raining.
Well, that's because
all that goes away.
That's because it lubricates. So here's my second best guess and educated guess, and that would be the sway bar bushings. The sway bar bushings, and a sway bar is attached to the left and right. It's a big, heavy steel bar that is a torsion bar, and it attaches to the right side and left side on the ends, and the middle is attached to the frame of the car, so that whenever you turn, if you turn to the right side of the car is going to try to lift up, so it tries to pull the sway bar up. Well, the left side is down. It counteracts, and that's anti-sway. It's what it is. It's not a sway bar. It's an anti-sway bar. So what I would do is, if I were you, I would take some lubricant, and I would spray the sway bar bushings. I mean, I'd go out on a day when it was hot and dry and squeaking, and then I would go back and I would spray with and you don't need to make up anything. Just use any kind of lubricant, around the household lubricant, a door lubricant, doesn't matter, and spray, and it has to be like a mineral base so that it will migrate into the sockets and the bushings. Spray the bushings only. Don't spray everything, because then you don't know where, you can't pinpoint. Spray the bushings and go drive it, and exercise. Spray them again, exercise. If that makes no difference, choose another battle, choose another joint, an A-frame bushing or a ball joint, and spray that area. And if the rain is getting in as viscous, the viscosity of water as compared to a mineral spray lubricant can immediately penetrate where you'd have to drive in water for, a half hour to get it to penetrate. So you can pinpoint, once you pinpoint, you replace that joint with a new joint. You don't keep spraying it with lubricant. Got it?
Got it. Would that be like a lithium spray?
No, lithium. I love lithium, but lithium doesn't. I'm glad you asked. When I spray a door jamb and a door hinge, and we get a lot of people to come in for a problem, and I'll get in their car and open their car door to get the mileage, and the car hinge goes whack, whack. I mean, they don't even complain about that. I don't know how they live with it. So what I'll do is I'll spray with a penetrant, and then I will cover the hinge modestly with lithium. The lithium keeps the coolant out, the water out, and the penetrant penetrates the joint. Lithium is not a penetrant. It's too heavy to penetrate. So you could put a half a pound of lithium on a squeaky door hinge, and the pin ain't going to be lubricated. But you could spritz it with a penetrant, and noise will go away. But you got to have the lithium to maintain the integrity of the internal lubrication by the mineralized lubricant. You got it?
Got it.
Okay, go do it.
Thank you, Bobby.
You're welcome. Thanks for your call. 888-227-2546. So earlier, I mentioned to you and shared with you about the shock that we see with coolant that is low in automobiles. It was a tip from our partners, Motorrad. Well, as I mentioned, Motorrad not only now offers radiator caps and thermostats, but they're in the sensor offerings as well. And their sensors, which are camshaft, crankshaft, ignition coils, mass airflow sensors, variable valve timing sensors. Now, just for all of you Toyota owners and Lexus owners and Ford owners, well, actually any car, but those in particular, the variable valve timing sensors are literally electronic controlled oil pressure pistons that are external, but they plug into the engine, and they have wires that control pistons that control the flow of oil, that control the camshaft advance and retard, which is the way the engine is tuned. And these sensors go bad. I will tell you this, even with a good sensor, if you use the wrong motor oil, you use too heavy a motor oil, you will affect the variable sensor operations because there are tiny orifices where this oil has to flow. But back to Motorrad. Motorrad has a new product lineup that you should check out. You go to motorrad.com and check it out. Camshaft, crankshaft, position sensors, ignition coils, mass airflow sensors, and of course, my favorite, the variable valve timing sensors that we really love to use. Why? Because a car will come in on its knees and be running so poorly, and we'll replace the sensor and the engine will be restored. Performance will be restored. It's as though you flip the switch. Of course, I'm making it sound simple because we've got a lot of ASE Master Certified technicians that perform these services, but I will share with you that it's the part that you put in that dictates the quality and the longevity of the repair. Check them out, motorrad.com. Take a call from Missouri. Craig, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Hello, Bobby.
Hey, sir.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. I've got a 1983 Jeep CJ5 with an AMC 258 and a Carter BBD carburetor. And it's got a problem that I guess is not uncommon to that vehicle where when it gets hot, the idle, it just surges. You can watch the idle stop solenoid.
Right, up and down.
Plunger going back and forth. It'll open the throttle a little bit, and then it'll close it, and then it'll open it and closes it.
Well, that was an early. Does that solenoid? Let's see, it's an 83. That it doesn't have wires going to it, does it?
It's got one wire. a wire and a vacuum hose going to the solenoid.
Well, of course, there's what's called a duty cycle, Craig, and the duty cycle is an antiquated way. Well, not too antiquated. They still use duty cycles these days, but they're much more sophisticated. A duty cycle would be, let's say that you had a light in your kitchen, and let's say you turn the switch on and off. Well, the light's going to blink. If you turn it on and off 5 times a second, then that would dictate its duty cycle. And then if you turned it on and off 30 times a second, the light would produce more light than if you turned it on and off 100 times a second, because it would be off more than on, or equal. You see what I'm saying? That's a duty cycle.
Right.
So, in fact, there are cars that use, or manufacturers, brands, that use duty cycles that control the speed of the electric fuel pump in the tank to dictate and control fuel pressure. And for the life of me, that's a stretch, but it's designed that way. Going back to yours, what I would do, what happens if you disconnect a wire, or have you?
Nothing. It doesn't seem to make any difference.
Well, then you could have a vacuum leak, and you can check that with spraying fluid around. You could have the vacuum going to that diaphragm, or that diaphragm itself could be defective in that component. The main thing to do is to take off what you know to be causing the problem, and see if you can adjust the idle speed and see if it works. And then you can, and then you know if it is causing the problem, you can use a new one or put a new one on that is causing the problem, or trace its wiring and its vacuum source. And that's as much time as I have to share with you this hour. Got it?
Sir, for taking my call and for the help. I appreciate it.
Well, call me earlier next time so I can spend more time with you folks. And thank you, Craig, from Missouri. That's all the time that we have for this hour. And don't forget, next week from 10 till noon Eastern Time, don't wait to the last. Call me. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us? You'll love us.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
Defend your vehicle from harmful elements and restore shine with Armor All Canister Wipes. Right now at O'Reilly Auto Parts, pick up Armor All Canister Wipes for $3.99. Easily remove dirt, dust, and grime with Armor All Canister Wipes on sale for $3.99 at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limits apply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Coolant leaks can be expensive, with repairs costing a few $1,000s or more. And these problems often hit vehicles late in life when they may be only worth a few $1,000s. There is an alternative. K-Seal is a pour-in solution designed to stop leaks and help prevent future leaks. Older sealers use sodium silicate, which has a tendency to clog the system. K-Seal features ceramic technology that's designed to repair the leak without clogging. Learn more about K-Seal at kseal.com. Don't just seal it, K-Seal it.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Ricey Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, starts my morning, happy morning. Your name is Folgers Mountain Grown